Hello and welcome to my knitting podcast. I think this is episode 8. My name is Irma and you can find me on YouTube, Revelry and Instagram as Wolwerkjes. I recorded this episode yesterday, but I didn't look it back even. I wasn't happy, it felt not right, so I'm recording again. So hopefully this time it's going better. I'm recording in the living room where my kitty cat is as well. And he's really asking for attention right now, so I hope he will be nice and we can do this quite smoothly. I'll start with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my owl cardigan by Chiba and my sockhead cowl by, I'll look it up and put it on the screen. I really like wearing this cowl. It's really easy to throw on. The only thing is that it's superwash merino, so it's growing a bit, and the purpose of really hugging my neck is a bit gone, but it keeps the area around the upper chest quite warm, so that's nice. I don't have finished objects this week, so you'll have to do with the works in progress and some future projects. So let's get started. The first thing I want to show you are socks I started, because I really want to finish them before the new year, because then I knitted a pair of socks each month and then I can enter for the sock bash special thread of the grocery girls, where you can only enter if you finish the sock every month. So that's what I'm aiming for. When I took this project out, I was a little bit disappointed because in my head I was further along, but I think I'll be able to finish them before New Year's, because it's a little bit thicker yarn. I'm knitting on needle size 3.5 or something, so that's quite a big needle for socks. And I finished already one, and it's a really nice marled yarn with a brownish color and a light color. Excuses for the lighting today. It's really gloomy outside and it's really hard to get good camera lighting at this spot, but we'll have to deal with that. I started the second sock. I'm making up as I go, so I did a few rounds of plain stockinette, so you get a rolled hem, and then I did a few rows of ribbing, a few rows of stockinette, ribbing, and so on. And I hope I will get the effect that it will puff a little bit when I'm wearing them. I did a fish lips kiss heel. I did it before, but somehow I switched to through aftertails heels in my last few socks. And I don't know why, because I really like doing this again. The only reason I can think of why I didn't do it in my last few pairs is that the way the heel looks, the edge of the heel, is different than the toe looks when you're using a normal decreasing toe, like a pointy toe. I like them to match. I don't know why, but I like them to match. So what I did for this sock, I never knitted socks on sock machines, but I have seen them in a factory where we were in a museum some time back. And when you knit socks on a socks machine, the toe is basically a heel that's grafted to the rest of the sock. So what I did a fish lips kiss heel. I knitted the length I needed, and then I knit another fish lips kiss heel, which I lay flat, and I used a Kitchener stitch to close up the seam. And now I have the same finish on my heel and toe again, without needing to do a true afterthought heel. So that's nice. I think I will do this again. The only thing is that because it's the first time, I made a mistake at the edge. So I have kind of a bubble over here. But that's okay. I don't really mind that. And I think I can do better next time. So we will see about that. I think I'm able to finish them before New Year's because I knit this almost in one evening. So that's really nice. Next work in progress. Next work in progress. I have been working on a few other things. And the first thing I want to show, don't touch the tripod. Okay. He's really asking for attention. Not in a nice way at the moment. Okay, another project I've been working on are mittens. And I think these are the siran or siren. I will put the name underneath by Ellie from Skeindeer Knits. And I am almost done with the first one. I finished the main part, but I'm only lacking a thumb here. It's really hard to show with this lightning and a kitty that's trying to grab everything. So there we are again. It's a really nice pattern. I switched the light and the dark color in the pattern. So in the pattern the pattern in front is dark and the main color of the mitten is light, but I switched it around. Those are for a really good friend of mine. She's visiting tonight and I don't think I will be able to knit a whole other mitten before she comes. I've started the second one yesterday evening late. I'm halfway through the cuff part and it's a really nice pattern to work. The yarn I use a phenol yarn and phenol PT2, both by Rauma. Yeah, it's really nice. The only thing is, and that has nothing to do with the pattern or with the brand of yarn, but I don't like knitting black. I like the effect of a finished product in black, but knitting black is kind of a pain in the... you know what I mean. Because it's really hard to see the stitches when you're working on it, especially when you most of the times knit in the evenings. So it's even harder to see, but I really like the details on this mitten. So that needs a little bit of work. It's not really a big problem that I haven't finished them. She doesn't know that she's getting them, and in Holland the really cold days only come after New Year's. Most of the times we hardly have a white Christmas here. Most of the times it's when we have snow, it's end of January, somewhere in February, and most of the times not earlier. So it's quite cold, but I think she can still get good use out of them, even if I give them later. So that's that. I'm watching my kitty in the corner of the room, trying to attack the Christmas lights. So not yet, but I think you will. So that's my second work in progress. I worked on quite some projects the last few weeks. Another one is the mittens for my little boy. I knitted him a hat in the colors of his coat, which were the yellow and blue. And I'm knitting him mittens as well. This is also a pattern by Ellie from Skeindeer Knits. Those are the Speedy Sable mittens. They're an adult pattern, but you use aran weight for it. And I changed the yarn to a smaller smaller weight of yarn. So this is a decayish yarn. I tightened up the gauge a lot in comparison to what the pattern asks for. So I get a smaller mitten, which was exactly the meaning because it's for a 2-year-old, and I think they're a little bit big, but he will be able to wear them next year as well. So that's nice. I started Whiskey. So I started the second one as well, but I only did a few rows of the ribbing, so not very interesting. And he has mittens to wear. The only thing is they are not having a thumb. So it's okay when he's in the stroller and just walking around. But when he wants to play outside, it would be easy for him to have a thumb on his mittens. So that's why I need to finish these. Also in this bag, not a work in progress, but a soon to be work in progress. And that's these two colors. I want to make my oldest son also a hat and some mittens. So I dyed up another ball of the dark color because the other one wasn't a full skein, so I won't be able to make a hat and mittens out of that, and I wanted them to match. So that's why I dyed up another ball of the dark blue. I didn't write down the recipe for the first. I didn't write down the recipe for this one. This was over dyed. I dyed the yarn first with avocado. I get a dusty pinkish color, but it didn't really match with anything I owned, and I wasn't so content that I would dye or buy something to match it because it really wasn't my color. So I used that to over dye with this dark color, and the effect is really nice. At some places you can see like a little bit of the pinkish color, but that gives the yarn a little bit more interest, so that's really nice. And I think it matches really well with the orange. So those two will be a pair of mittens and a hat. Another work in progress is my fjer cardigan by Lerge from Fibertales. She has a podcast and I really like watching her. The last time I showed you I was just done with the ribbing, which is a broken rib, which I really like. And now I'm almost done with the straight part of the back, and then I only have to separate for the shoulders. I was hoping I could get the back part out of one skein, but this is the only amount of yarn I have left from this skein, so I will need to break in another one. That's alright because it's mostly undyed with only a few clashes of the color. I don't think it will show up. Yeah, I really like the effect of this yarn. It's a single, so it gets a little bit of a halo over the knitted piece, which is really nice. And yeah, I really like working on this pattern. The only thing I have to be careful with is that I'm knitting a different weight of yarn than the pattern is calling for. So I did need to do a little bit of math. And when I was calculating, I came to the conclusion that if I knitted a smaller size than I wanted, I would be off only a few centimeters, and it's a boxy, oversized pattern. So I thought, well, a few centimeters more is not really big a deal. So that's what I went for. The only thing is my row gauge is also off, of course, so I need to be careful with the shoulder shaping, that I calculate how much length I will get for the shoulders, so I can make sure that the total length of the garment is still the same. But I really like this pattern and I really want to work on it, but I first want to finish the mittens and the socks. So it has to wait a little bit now. But I really like working on it. I only have 3 skeins and I think I'll need to dye another one. Because the back piece took me more than a skein, and there are 2 front pieces and 2 sleeves. They are short sleeves, but 2 sleeves, full length. But because of the dropped shoulder, it's a little bit shorter to knit. And the bottom band, and I think I don't have enough yarn, so I need to dye another one. But as I said before, because it's mostly undyed yarn with only a little bit of color here and there, I think it won't show up where I changed color. I know I should have alternated skeins, but then I would get like extra loops at one side, and on the side of the cardigan there is a really nice detail which will run along the side seams, because it's a in pieces knitted garment, and I thought it would be harder to seam together when I do that. So that's why I chose not to alternate skeins, although I know I maybe should have, but we will see. I'm not really bothered with it. I think the yarn will do fine and you won't see the difference between the skeins. So that's that. There's one more project I have kind of worked on, not knitting wise, but in another way. And that's my Cozy Memories blanket. I knit this, I started 3 times I think, and every time there was something, or I wasn't happy with the way I was decreasing, or I wasn't happy with the amount of stretch in the cast on edge. I think now I'm content with both, so that's nice. But I'm not as far along as I was when I ripped back, so that's a little bit of a pity, but we will get there one day. I didn't knit on this. I collect my leftovers in a pile, mostly in the tote where I keep my memories blanket, but some of the leftovers are quite big, and I really got annoyed that the yarn was tangling up on each other and that there was way more yarn in the tote than I know I would need for the blanket. And because I ripped back, I had all these little balls of yarn of which I knew that they would make a square. So let me see. I've already knitted those 2 up in my blanket once before I ripped back, and I know those 2 will make a square. So what I did, all the little balls I had, I weighed them, and I came to the conclusion that they're all under 5 grams. So I made, from all the leftover yarns I had and I want to use in my blanket, I made little balls of 5 grams when they're fingering weight, because when you're using different weights this doesn't count. All the fingering weight yarns I wanted to use in my blanket, I made 5 gram minis. So now I have, and I won't be able to show them all in one go, because then it will be a mess here, because they don't fit all in my hands. Really a lot of little mini skeins wound up already in little balls in this tote, which looks cute and also is really easy to use, because now when I take my memories blanket out of his tote, I don't have to deal with the tangled up yarn, which is really nice. It's quite easy to see which yarns I still have to put in the blanket, and yeah, I'm really happy that I did this. So these are a few more, and maybe I will make a shot of all of them together. So this is my pile of minis for my memories blanket, and I think it's really easy to grab one of those little balls instead of taking a whole cake to knit with. I'm not sure if I want to use only fingering weight yarn in this blanket. Maybe I will use a little bit of heavier yarns as well. What I did for those is, for the DK ones, I know that a normal skein of fingering weight yarn is 100 grams gives 400 meters, and for DK 100 grams gives 200 meters. So that's about double. Half the length. So I need double the weight of yarn to make the same yarn length. So for the DK yarns I made 10 gram balls, and I think I will be able to get a square out of that, but I'm not sure. I will have to try, but I think that will work as well. And for even heavier weights I have to still think if I should put them in the blanket, because it will give a little bit of a deformation in the squares, because the heavier weight yarns will take a little bit more space. But it was really fun to do, and it cleaned up my pile of scraps. I still have to wind the leftovers into neat cakes to put them away, but it's better than it was before. And yeah, it was a really nice thing to do, and it makes me want to knit on my memories blanket again, so that's nice. The only thing I'm a little bit bothered by is those minis I got, and they're just 2.5 grams, but for sure I know this is a really fine lace weight yarn. So when I keep it as a one strand instead of holding it double to make a fingering, I'm quite sure I will get a square out. The only thing is that it will be a really open and loose gauged square. So I'm not sure if I want to do that. And this one is a little bit in between lace and fingering. So I'm also not sure if I will get a square out of this, but I can try and rip back when it doesn't work. But it would be nice to put them in the blanket, because it's nice to put gifts in a memories blanket. So the last thing is I want to talk about are some future plans. I don't have a lot knitting wise yet, because I have quite some whips at the moment. Not only the ones I showed now, but I also have my sheep shawl still on the needles, and a cardigan pullover for my husband, and I'm also I'm also crocheting a scarf. So those are all things that need to be finished before I can think about something else. What I am trying is some sewing. I haven't had any classes, because I think it's quite a thing to make time for that. I know that a lot of people make time for those things, but I don't feel the need to make time for it, I think. Although it would be convenient for some things, because I think sewing patterns can be quite vague when you don't know some terms, and I can look those up, but not always, so that's a little bit annoying sometimes, but I'm managing for now. I have a really nice sewing machine. I use it for like little project bags. I'm quite good able to make those, but I want to go to a little bit more advanced stuff. So I wanted to make some clothes for myself and for my children. Last week there's a fabric shop here in the neighborhood which has a little bit strange opening hours. 2 nights back they were open in the evening, so I went there and I found a really nice fabric, and I think I want to make a dress. I'm sure I want to make a dress out of it for myself, and it's this really nice like cabled knitted fabric. If I can show you. the color isn't showing up as it should be. It's more green than blue. It's not blue at all, I think, in real life. But it is this really nice textured fabric, but still really flowy. And I want to make a dress out of it with a straight neckline, just some shaping at the breast area, and the rest will be just straight with a short sleeve, and I think it will be really nice in this fabric. So I hope I will manage to make it. The last dress I wanted to make was a little bit more complicated, way more seams to sew. And the problem I had was that the skirt part was fitting really well, but the upper part didn't fit me at all, so I ended up cutting it off at the around here and doubled it over, so now I have a nice skirt, so that's fine, but it really annoyed me that it didn't fit right, so I hope this one will. I think this will be better because there's no shaping in the most part of the dress and the other one did, and my upper part of my body is way shorter than the bottom part. I don't know how to explain it otherwise, but that's how it is. So when I use the normal sizes in the pattern, it doesn't always work for me. So I think this pattern is quite easy to adapt, because when it fits here, it will fit downwards as well, I think. So we will see what I make of that. I don't think I have any more knitting to show. I want to show something, but it hasn't arrived yet, so it will be when it arrives today. I can make a little video and put it in here, but when it doesn't, you will see it next time. But I ordered some Haya needles. I use Haya a lot. I really like them. All my metal needles I'm using, my circulars, are Haya, and I really like the sharps. I don't have the issue with poking my finger too much. The strange thing is, when I switch to my wooden needles, I hurt my fingers on my wooden needles now instead of those. So I don't know how that comes, but I really like how they work. And I saw that they also make flyers, they call it, in the sharp version. And the flyers are like a double pointed needle, but with a little piece of cable in between, so that makes it flexible, and you can use it as a double pointed needle, only you need just 3 needles, because the flexible bit in the middle makes it more movable. And I don't like working on DPNs because I have too much needles going around, but I think this might work because you have the same amount of stitches on the needle as when you do magic loop, and I don't think it will be as fiddly as the DPNs. So that's something I really want to try, and yeah, that's it about my project. I think this video will go up on Sunday the 30th of December. So tomorrow it will be New Year's Eve, and I wish everybody a good and healthy 2019. And I will see you in the new year. Bye!